Buongiorno e ciao a tutti, I'm Aaron, your instructor here at 99 Problemi. Each video on this channel is intended to introduce a new aspect of Italian language and culture, while reinforcing new knowledge with exercises and feedback. In this tutorial, I'm looking at possessive adjectives, and as the name implies, these are useful when talking about things that someone owns. For instance, mine, yours, his, hers, and so on. And so first we're going to learn the possessive adjectives, and with those different forms we are going to be comparing and contrasting with the objective of making them easier to remember. And then we're going to move on to some exercises to show comprehension. Alright, first let's look at a table of the possessive adjectives. And first up here is the masculine singular. You'll notice that all of them have an article on them, and with the possessives you need an article. So the eel will remain in front of the adjective itself, and this will be determined by the nature of the noun. Okay, so if you have a masculine singular noun, you're going to have eel out in front. And then you'll notice that all of these end in O. Okay, so if you want to say my, you have to say il mio. Yours, il tuo, his, her, or your, the formal. Il suo. Ours is il nostro, yours, plural, is il vostro, and there is il loro. Okay, let's take a look at the rest of the forms. Okay, maybe at this point you notice that there are some differences that are popping out that maybe you wouldn't expect if you have some sort of background with adjectives in Italian. You notice that for the most part they conform to probably what you would think of for general adjectives, but you'll notice a few major differences. So one of the things I want you to do here is look for two major observations about the different forms. Alright, let's take a second here and pause the video and look for two major things that stand out to you. Alright, first is loro, and strangely enough, in all of the major forms above the loros, we notice that the masculine singulars, they end in O, the feminine singulars end in A, the masculine plurals, they end in I, and the feminine plurals, they end in E, which is exactly what you would expect. But if you look down at the loro forms, the their forms, you'll notice that they never change. They're invariable. Loro always stays the same no matter what the nature, the gender and number of the thing that's being possessed. Okay, so there's one major difference, and maybe you notice this one too, and that's up here. This is the second major difference. The I miei, I tuoi, and I suoi, my, yours, his, or her, dealing with masculine plurals, they are triphthongs. Those triphthongs are when three consecutive vowels appear next to each other, and these present kind of difficulty to native English speakers. Very difficult to say. You try it. I miei, I tuoi, I suoi. But really they are outside of your expectations because you wouldn't expect that in the my form, you wouldn't expect the E to be in there. Okay, if you were just chopping off the O like you do with the adjectives and adding on the typical masculine plural ending of I, it would be, MII. You would expect your to be I tui, and his or her, yours, to be I sui, but in fact they're not. So practice those to yourself. I miei, I tuoi, I suoi. They take a little bit of getting used to. One final note before we move on to the exercises is that little star there, the asterisk. that in the formal, the possessive adjective is normally capitalized. So if you're saying to somebody, hey, that's your car over there, you would say la sua macchina for the your form, but if it were written, you would see it with a capital S. Okay. All right, let's see if we can put these to work by doing some examples. Be sure to have a pen and paper ready. You're going to need them to write down the examples and the answer. Let's do a couple examples together to be sure you're on the right track. Okay, let's look at number one first of all, pittore. And this exercise wants you to say there. So for some reason you want to say it's their painter. Okay. Pittore, you have to think to yourself, well, pittore is masculine because ore words are masculine. And therefore the their form for masculine singular is il loro. Okay, and there may be some confusion there with pittore ending in an E and then being masculine, but just remember that the nature of pittore here is masculine singular, and you got to go back to that table if you don't have it memorized yet. Got to go back to that table and find their form of the masculine singular. Take a look at the next one, number two. Università, and I've made a note after it that it's singular. Remember that words that are accented on the final A like that, like università, and you'll see to anticipate down in number 6, città, that those you can't tell whether they're singular or plural from the word itself. You'd have to figure it out from the article, or in this case you can also figure it out from the possessive adjective. Okay, and if you have something in your mind for that one, get a thought going here about università. See if you can figure out how you'd say it's your university, talking to more than one person. Okay, and that one is la vostra università. This one may present some difficulties, not just because it's an invariable noun, but one that has an accented A at the end, but it might present a difficulty too because you're thinking l'università is typically the definite article in front of università is L apostrophe, so you're probably thinking, well, when you put in that possessive adjective, you got to keep the L apostrophe, but that's only in front of vowels that you need that definite article, L apostrophe. In this case, the possessive adjectives aren't going to use the L apostrophe. You notice that none of the possessive adjectives start with a vowel, or if you're thinking about the next one, maybe sport, it would be lo sport or li sport. Well, those just don't even come into play with possessive adjectives because all the possessive adjectives start with a consonant, and you have to defer to that for the definite article rule. Okay, you'll get this over time. It may be slightly confusing at the start. Now's the time you should probably pause and see if you can do the next 8, and I'll be back immediately to see what you have. Okay, let's get going here with number 3. For sport singular, lo sport, it would become il nostro sport. You know, when I say our sport, il nostro sport. Number 4, pagina, his page. La sua pagina. Libro, in the your singular, is il tuo libro. And città, with a nod back to number 2, città, another invariable. This one's in the plural, and you'll see that maybe you thought it was la mia città, but because it's plural, you need to go to the feminine plurals, and this one would be le mie città. Studentessa, the next one, my student. La mia studentessa. Ragazzo, your ragazzo, your boy. Il tuo ragazzo. Edificio. The next one is il suo edificio, her building. A bar, our bar. Il nostro bar. Bar, another invariable one. If it were plural, it would be I nostri bar. Okay, so these are some of the questions you can ask. If I change it to the plural, how would it change the possessive? Let's keep going with this. We'll do 10 more of these to really solidify, and there are a couple on this next page that will challenge even people who understand this material very well. Okay, so now's the time to pause this again, and I'll be back in a couple seconds to see if you have the correct answers. Okay, let's go here. Number 11, you want to say your plural, ragazza, your girl. It is la vostra ragazza. Classe, classe, remember, is feminine singular, so it would be la loro classe. Notice again, loro not changing even if it's feminine. 13, scuola, their school. Again, la loro scuola. 14, amica. It's your plural, so it would be vostro, but then it's feminine, so it would be vostra, and you need the article, so it would be la vostra amica. Lezione, another feminine. We want to say our lesson or our class, be la nostra lezione. And your formal, problema. Problema is a one that looks feminine, but it's actually, its nature is masculine, and that is il suo with a capital S because it's formal, il suo problema. 17, another deceptive noun, cinema. Cinema is also masculine while looking feminine. So you want to say is his cinema. That is il suo cinema. 18, mano, another deceptive noun. Mano is feminine, so it is, you want to say her hand, it is la sua mano. Film, another invariable noun, but it is singular and it is masculine, so you want to say your film, it is il tuo film. And cane, that is il mio cane. Okay, so this concludes the lesson on possessive adjectives. If you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comment field, and keep practicing. If you'd like to get notifications about videos as they are released, be sure to subscribe to 99 Problemi. Grazie.